Welcome to Chapter 3, The Remarkable Body.
The Intestines by Professor Tammy. Learning objectives. Summarize how the digestive system provides nutrients to the body tissues. Intestines. There's the small intestine and the large intestine. The large intestine is also called the colon. That's the other name for it. The small intestine is the common bile duct. Fluids from pancreas and the gallbladder comes and say, hey, here's our fluid, small intestine. And the small intestine has three sections, or three segments. The duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. So just think of it, DJI. The large intestine has the ileocecal valve. It also can withdraw water. So think of constipation. You need to defecate. You need to go to the bathroom. But I'm like, you know what? I'm watching this class. I'll wait till after this slide. No, you can pause it. It's okay. Even if you are in my in-person class, I'll say, just go to the bathroom. So what happens is when you wait too long to go to the bathroom, when you need to do number 2, the water starts getting withdrawn. And that's why when you actually finally go to the bathroom, you're like, oh, this is taking forever. It's not coming out. So it's because water is being withdrawn, and that's when you start having some constipation too. But hopefully that's only temporarily. So the large intestine is also connected to the rectum, and then the rectum is connected to the anus. The small intestine. From the stomach, chyme is slowly released through the pyloric sphincter to the small intestine. Chemical digestion continues in the small intestine using pancreatic enzyme and also the bile, because those two secretions go to the small intestine. Say, hey, small intestine, we're here to help you. Small intestine is the majority of absorption. That's where the majority of absorption occurs, in the small intestine. And the small intestine is about 10 feet long, so it has a large surface area. The small intestine does absorption techniques such as simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. Absorptive system. So it's about absorbing nutrients here. Cells of small intestines are selective. There's photostructures, which are the villi and the microvilli. So let me explain what the villi are. So if you see this red, this is the villi. The microvilli are just on top of the villi. So they're all over. You're like, why is that there? Well, let's talk about the villi first. The villi selects and regulate nutrients absorbed. So it's based on what they need. So they will select nutrients that they need, like as they're coming. So the microvilli that's on top of the villi, enzymes and pumps recognize and act on different nutrients. So what they do is they kind of catch what's there, like floating nutrients, and they're like, oh, since they have more surface area, when you see it, like, look, there's a lot of surface area. So they can catch and absorb more nutrients, versus if they didn't have the microvilli or the way it's shaped, they wouldn't catch as many nutrients as they need. So these are specialized cells. As far as food combining, certain foods enhance each other's absorption too. Absorption. Absorption is the process of taking molecules across the cell membrane and into cells of the body. A small amount of absorption occurs in the stomach, but most of it occurs in the small intestine. So the small intestine has three sections. If you remember, I mentioned DJI, duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The lining of the GI tract, the gastrointestinal tract, has special structures to facilitate absorption. So remember, I spoke about the villi and the microvilli. The villi folds in the lining that are in close contact with nutrient molecules. And the microvilli, they're like these brush borders are composed of the microvilli that greatly increase the surface area. So what they mean is, these are the villi. Remember, nutrients can go in. But in order to have more nutrients, they have these brush borders, the microvilli. So remember, they're composed of the microvilli, and they, because there's more surface area, they can absorb more nutrients. Absorption and transport of nutrients. Nutrient molecules transverse intestinal lining. So there's the water-soluble nutrients and the fat-soluble nutrients. The water-soluble nutrients, they are carbohydrate, protein, minerals, and most vitamins like B and C's. So they enter the portal vein, the blood vessel. The blood vessel transports these nutrients to the liver. The fat-soluble nutrients, they're products of fat digestion, so they're lipids and fat-soluble vitamins like the A, E, D, and Ks. They enter the lymphatic vessels, also known as the lymph vessels. So the lymphatic vessels transport these nutrients directly to the bloodstream. So remember, the fat-soluble nutrients have to go through the lymphatic vessels before they go into the bloodstream. Versus the water-soluble nutrients, they just enter the blood vessels. Preparing nutrients for transport. Absorption. Water-soluble nutrients and small fat products, they go from bloodstream to liver. Large fat products and fat-soluble vitamins, they go from lymphatic system to bloodstream. So large intestine, also known as colon, undigested food components move through a sphincter called the ileocecal valve to the large intestine. In the large intestine, very little digestion takes place. So the material is stored between 12 to 24 hours prior to elimination. So it stays there for like half a day to a day before you excrete it out. Water and some nutrients are absorbed during this time. Elimination. In the large intestine, also known as colon, intestinal bacteria digest any remaining food particles. Water and chemicals are absorbed into the bloodstream. Non-digestible matter forms feces, so they become poop, or number 2, whatever you want to call it, which are excreted through the rectum. Gastrointestinal microbes. There are microbes in the healthy gastrointestinal tract, so the GI tract. It contains trillions of microbes of many species, like, wow, a lot. The type of bacteria present vary due to several factors, including your diet, so it all depends what you eat. And the microbes have a role in disease, and there's a difference with what type of microbes you have, whether you're obese versus non-obese. And there's factors influencing the GI bacteria. There's the prebiotic and the probiotic. The prebiotic encourages microbial growth, while the probiotic has live microbes, just like yogurt. So when you think of yogurt, they all should have the probiotic, and they should all have the same one. So whether you buy Activia, which is usually advertised for older adults, or Yoplait, or the Greek yogurt, or Danone, they're all very similar to each other. As far as children's yogurt, they tend to have more sugar. There's also the regular adult yogurt like Yoplait you normally see. They have the probiotics, and the ones with fruits or chocolate in some cases, they have more sugar. And then the Greek yogurt has more protein. So yogurts for children tend to be sweeter. Yogurts that have fruits or honey tend to be sweeter, and Greek yogurts tend to have more protein. How long does it take to go from the mouth to the anus? So from one end of the tube to the other end of the gastrointestinal tract tube. It takes about 24 to 48 hours. So it doesn't take immediate. It's not like I'm going to eat something. Oh, wow, in 3 to 6 hours I pooped it out. No, it doesn't work that way. It's 24 to 48 hours. So within 24 to 48 hours, the body digests and absorbs 90% of carbohydrate, fat, and protein in the meal that you ate. So the mouth, the food is crushed in mass and mixed with saliva. Carbohydrate digestion begins in the mouth. Swallowing, the peristaltic wave is there too. And stomach, the gastric juice mixes with food, acid unwinds protein, and there's also chyme. The small intestine, remember the bile is produced from the liver and stored in the gallbladder. Enzymes from pancreas goes and visits the small intestine. The large intestine, there's fiber fragments, fluids, and some minerals absorption there. The typical digestive system transit time. So remember I mentioned, about 24 to 40 hours. So let's pretend it's based on the 24-hour transit time between the mouth and the anus. So the time in the mouth, it takes less than a minute. You just go chum 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 and then you swallow, right? Time in the stomach, it is about 1 through 2 hours. Time in the small intestine is about 7 through 8 hours. Remember, the small intestine is about 10 feet long, so it takes time to go through this 10-foot small intestine. The time in the colon is about 12 through 14 hours because it needs time to absorb, and then anything that's not used becomes feces.
See you soon, and remember to read the book.